All right, so today we're going to dive into something pretty cool. We're talking robots, specifically humanoid robots. And, there's obviously a lot of buzz around Tesla's robot project. But we're going to look at a potential competitor here, the Booster T1. It's this really interesting blend of athleticism and open source development.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. This company, Booster Robotics, seemingly came out of nowhere. They were founded just this year in Beijing. But they've already made a big splash with this T1 robot.
So paint a picture for us. What is this thing like?
Well, picture a robot a little over a meter tall, weighing about the same as like a large toddler,
Yeah.
around 29 kilograms.
Okay, a robot toddler.
Right, but not your typical toddler.
Right.
This one can do push-ups, it can play handball, even soccer.
Hold on, really?
Yeah, and it can even jump further than any other humanoid robot its size, like a whopping 1.4 meters.
Wow, over 4 feet. That's impressive. How do they even achieve that kind of athleticism in a robot?
So the key here is they use something called force-controlled joints. You see most robots move in a very rigid way. But these joints, they allow the T1 to be much more fluid, almost like it has a sense of touch.
So it can react to its surroundings in a more natural way.
Exactly, and that's essential for navigating, the real world.
Yeah.
Which is ultimately the goal of humanoid robots, right? To have them operate effectively in our environment.
Makes sense. So who's the brains behind this thing?
The founder of Booster Robotics is a guy named Cheng Hao. He's got a pretty impressive background. Graduated from Tsinghua University, has a ton of experience in robotics research, even worked at Byte, the company behind TikTok.
Interesting. So he's definitely got the chops. But what's his vision for this robot?
Well, Cheng Hao is really focused on the practical applications of robotics. He's not trying to build robots for some distant future. He wants to solve real-world problems now.
I like that. So how does the T1 fit into that?
Well, a big part of it is their open source development model.
Okay, so I get open source software, but what does that mean for a robot?
Basically, they're providing the base model of the T1, the hardware and the software, and then they're letting other developers come in and customize it.
Ah, so you could have a company that specializes in, say, elder care, and they could adapt the T1 to be a companion for seniors.
Exactly.
That's brilliant. It's like a robot starter kit, so that would really accelerate innovation, right?
Absolutely. You're going to have developers all over the world contributing to the T1's evolution. It's a really exciting prospect.
So it sounds like Booster Robotics is taking a very collaborative approach, but they must have their own plans for the T1 too, right?
Oh, definitely. They've already secured commercial orders for the T1, and they're planning to start mass production soon.
Wow. Okay. So this isn't just some research project. The T1 is going to be out there in the real world.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see who's buying these robots and what they're using them for.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how it all unfolds.
This is incredible. We've just scratched the surface here. But the Booster T1 definitely has the potential to be a game changer. It's got this amazing athleticism, it's adaptable, and this whole open source approach could really shake things up in the robotics world.
Yeah, I think we're just seeing the beginning of what's possible.
It's definitely an exciting time to be following this field.
Absolutely.
Okay, so last time we were talking about how the T1 is like this platform for what they call secondary development.
Right, yeah.
Can we dig into that a little bit more? Like, what exactly does that mean?
Sure. So basically, Booster Robotics is providing the base hardware and software, the foundation of the robot.
Okay.
And then other developers can come in and build on top of that. They can customize the T1 for specific applications.
So I guess kind of like if you think of building a house,
Yeah.
Booster Robotics builds the structure, and then other companies come in and, do the interior design.
Exactly. A perfect analogy.
So maybe you have a company that specializes in logistics. They could take the T1 and develop software that lets it work in a warehouse.
Right. Like navigating around obstacles, sorting packages, maybe even loading and unloading trucks.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Or what about like a research lab?
Oh, yeah. The T1 could be amazing in a lab setting, automating tasks, handling delicate materials.
And because it's open source, all these developers don't have to start from scratch. They're saving a ton of time and money.
Exactly. And that's a huge advantage. It's going to lead to a lot more innovation.
I mean, just think about it. You could have developers all over the world coming up with new ways to use the T1. The possibilities are kind of endless.
Absolutely. We could see some really remarkable advancements in the coming years.
So we've talked about this open source development, but Booster Robotics must have their own plans for the T1 too, right?
Oh, yeah, they definitely do.
I mean, they've already got commercial orders.
Right.
So who are these early adopters? What are they using the T1 for?
Oh, they're keeping the specifics pretty quiet for now.
Okay.
But I think we can make some educated guesses.
based on its capabilities. So we're talking about things that require precision and dexterity
Right.
and the ability to adapt to changing environments. Like, what kind of industries are we thinking?
Well, industries where robots have traditionally struggled,
Okay.
like construction
Uh-huh.
or agriculture,
Interesting.
maybe even healthcare.
Wow, healthcare. That would be amazing. Imagine a T1 assisting a surgeon.
Right. We're helping to care for patients.
But when you start talking about robots working alongside humans, you have to think about safety.
Absolutely.
How do we know these robots aren't going to be a danger to people?
Well, that's a major concern. And Booster Robotics has addressed it from the beginning.
Okay, how so?
Well, those force-controlled joints we talked about, they're a big part of it.
Right, because it can sense if it bumps into something.
Exactly. So if the T1 comes into contact with a person, it can adjust its movements to avoid causing any harm.
Okay, so it's not just about raw power, it's about control and responsiveness.
Right. It needs to be able to react intelligently to its surroundings.
That makes me feel a lot better. But even with all the safety precautions, you can't help but think about the bigger picture. The implications of robots becoming more integrated into our lives.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation.
It is.
It's something we need to think about carefully.
Because this technology, it's not inherently good or bad. It's all about how we use it.
Right.
And the T1, with its open source approach, I think it gives us a real opportunity to shape the future of robotics in a positive way.
Yeah, I agree. We have a chance to make sure these robots are used for good.
Absolutely. And to address any potential problems head on.
That's the key.
This has been an incredible discussion. I feel like we've learned so much about the T1 and its potential to really transform industries.
Yeah, me too.
We've talked about its athleticism, the open source development, even the ethical considerations.
A lot to take in.
It is. But there's one more aspect we need to explore. We need to talk about how the T1 stacks up against the competition. What does its arrival mean for the future of robotics worldwide? So we've talked a lot about the T1 and what makes it special. But how does it actually compare to other humanoid robots out there? Like, is it really as groundbreaking as it seems?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, there's definitely a lot of competition in the humanoid robotics space right now. Companies like Tesla and Boston Dynamics, they're making big advancements.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think the T1 brings something different to the table. It's got this unique combination of features, the force-controlled joints, the open-source design, and that real focus on practical applications.
So it's not just hype.
No, not at all. The T1 is pushing the boundaries of what's possible in robotics.
Okay, so looking ahead then, what do you think the emergence of the T1 means for the future of robotics as a whole?
Well, I think it's a sign of things to come. A shift towards robots that are more collaborative,
Yeah.
more adaptable,
Yeah.
and more accessible.
Accessible in what way?
Well, with the open source approach, you're going to have smaller companies, research institutions, even individual developers, all contributing to the development of humanoid robots.
So it's kind of democratizing the field in a way.
Exactly. It's taking it out of the hands of just the big tech companies.
That's pretty exciting.
It is. But it also comes with some challenges.
Right. I was just thinking about that. Like, as these robots get more sophisticated and more integrated into our lives, we need to be really careful about the ethical implications.
Absolutely.
Things like job displacement, data privacy, even the potential for these robots to be misused.
Yeah, those are all valid concerns.
Mm-hmm.
And there are things we need to address proactively.
It's almost like we're on the verge of this technological revolution.
It really does feel that way.
And it's up to us to make sure it unfolds in a way that benefits everyone.
I think you're right. We need to guide this technology in the right direction.
So the T1 is a fascinating example of what's happening in robotics right now. It's got this incredible potential to reshape industries.
Yeah, it really does.
But it also raises some big questions about the future.
It definitely does.
And I think it's important for all of us to be aware of those questions.
I agree.
So if you're interested in learning more about the T1 or just robotics in general, I encourage you to do some research. There are tons of resources available online. And who knows, maybe you'll be the one to come up with the next groundbreaking application for this technology.
I hope so.
It's an exciting time to be following this field.
It really is.
And we'll be here to keep you updated on all the latest developments. So thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of the Booster T1.
Thanks for having me.